So again, for those of you who are watching, and I'm going to also give you a copy of this video. And some of you guys are on my live streaming at the moment. So you will have a copy. I'm going to turn off my live stream soon. So Casey, this is Dr. Robert Pate. He is my clinical director at CAV Family Therapy, my group practice. So we will be monitoring your chat, so you don't have to worry about that. Robert, Dr. Pate, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to Casey?
Hey, good morning, Casey.
Good morning.
I'm excited to hear about systemizing.
Such an exciting topic.
She's the queen. She's the queen of doing that. So
I'm sure. Yeah, I was reading up on the bio, for the talk here, and when Ernesto and I work together, I tend to have more of a relational focus on business type things, and in my personal life, my wife systemizes my life. So maybe it's a woman thing. I don't know, but
yes,
yeah, I'm excited to hear what you have to say here.
Yeah. So everybody, for those of you joining in the chat area, go ahead and let us know where you are from, and if you have a solo or a group practice, and yeah, let us know. Like I said, Casey, you sold out this. I have to try to sort out all of the people that's sending me emails and text messages and private messages here. And it goes to show, Casey, that this is something that is so needed within the mental health community, right?
Yeah.
Systemizing. Do you think, and before we go into this, do you think there is some sort of an issue with many mental health group practice owners and private practice, solo practice owners, of not systemizing their business?
I do. I think we run our business like therapists and not like business owners, because most of the time this is our first business. We don't know any better. So it's not that people are doing anything wrong. They're just doing what comes naturally to them as a therapist or as someone in healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Elizabeth in Austin, Texas. We've got SoCal. Hey, Heather, what's going on, my friend? Yeah, just let us know where you are from. People are trickling in. So, it's 8 o'clock. Let's get this party started. I'm so damn excited. When your assistant emailed me and said, hey, do you want Casey's PowerPoint presentation and slides? I said, no, I don't, because I want to be surprised, because Robert knows that there's a lot of improvement with CAV Family Therapy that needs to really be systemized here. So, hi, Judy. All right, you're from Livermore. Or Grace, hey, hi, you guys. All right, so I'm going to first introduce Casey, but before we move on, Robert, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone here. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Morning, everybody. Dr. Robert Pate. You should go by Robbie. If you happen to see me online or on Facebook or something, happy to see you there. I have worked with Ernesto for several years with CAV Family Therapy and CAV Academy, and just excited here to hear what Casey has to say about systemizing practices, because I've worked with a lot of our therapists at CAV. We do a lot of clinical work, but I always enjoy working with supervisees and some of our other clinicians, just thinking about ways that we can not only get clients in, but keep them in. So I always am kind of picking Ernesto's brain about how he thinks about running our group practice as the owner of the practice. So I think there's always ways that we can tweak a business to make it better. And so I think that, getting systems in place is always a helpful thing to do. So I'm excited to hear what Casey has to say, see how we can apply that to our group practice, and of course, to help other people do the same.
Absolutely. And for me, let me just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Ernesto, and I'm a few things. Okay, here we go. Take a deep breath, everybody. So I am a retired psychotherapist. I actually retired about a month and a half ago. And now I do social media and video and digital marketing for clinicians. And I also teach that. I'm a videographer specifically for clinicians. And lately, I am so inspired to showcase people like Casey, who is doing some amazing things in our community. And so my group, my business is called filmic.com, where I create these promotional videos and they travel over the place. But let me go ahead and brag a little bit about Casey. Okay, so I want you all to pay attention to this, okay, and how impressive Casey is. So I've seen Casey do her magic for a long, long time. She owns a multi-million-dollar group practice. She's also now she's been a consultant and helped solo and group practices systemize their practices, because there is an epidemic within our community. I'm going to rant about this later today after our session, that we do not systemize our sessions or our practices, and we are overworked as a mental health community. And what Casey is doing at the moment with her programs, and I'm going to connect all of her programs to all of you. Please get on the link and get on her subscription and get on her membership, because we as a mental health community need to really think about our own mental health. And this work in the system is really incredible. So again, in the chat box and in your email box, please look out for all of the things that Casey's doing, because she can help you. So again, she is a consultant. She does all kinds of stuff. She runs a group practice. And again, like I said, multi-million-dollar practice, and she knows her shit. The other thing that I'm really excited about Casey, I don't know if this is, I can mention this, but she's writing a book.
That's why I have all this gray hair.
I can't wait to read that book, because all of you know that I am a bookworm. I love reading and I love good books, and look forward to my video endorsement of that actual book. So Casey, I know that there's much more here, so go ahead and introduce yourself to us. And first of all, before we move on, I want you guys to put yourselves on what do you call it? Presenter view, so you can see Casey's presentation. Right, Casey, take it on.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be on here with Ernesto and Robert, Robbie, Dr. Pate, all those names. I do want to introduce, you can't see her, but Emily, she's in the chat. I'm sure she will say hello. I've got her in here in case someone asks a question that they need a link or they need directed to, there she is, a certain form or freebie or whatever. She's going to help me out with that. So happy to have that. Makes me feel a little bit better inside. This is the first Zoom webinar I've ever done. And so I know how to use Zoom, but I'm a little nervous on the details. So you hear me
we're gonna be on screen with you, so we will provide you all of the cheerleading and support. We're just gonna go ahead and mute ourselves.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm not a big slide person normally, but I do have a few things that I think is important, just a visual for you to see. So I'm going to try to share that slide screen. I don't know how this is going to go. Ernesto, feel free to unmute if.
Absolutely.
So, let's see. It never does what I want.
At the very bottom of there it is.
There it is. So let me see if I can make it the standard view and see if you can see it. There we go.
There it is.
Perfect. Now I have a lot less stress. So a systemizer is really someone, in our opinion, who systemizes the shit out of business. And we coined that term about 6-7 months ago, when our practice has always been a systems-based practice. But we really started practicing what we were preaching. So from the consulting side, we would dive into a particular system in our own in the practice mindset behavioral group that I have, and just really work through the process in the exact same way that we were teaching other people to do. And as that process was happening, we just kind of made up the word. It's not, I think it is actually a word, but systemizer, systematize is too many syllables for me to say. And so we just shortened it and we're calling everything systemizers. And these are people that truly understand the purpose of systemizing. And we'll get to that in a second. Please stop me during this presentation, you two, if someone has a question. I will try not to talk super fast, but I can't promise anything. I thought this was interesting. And of the hundreds and hundreds of people that we have worked with, maybe approaching thousands at this point, what we're seeing is that about 90% of practice owners could earn 20% more revenue without doing anything more. In fact, they could do it by doing less. And there's a lot of logic behind that. And that is one of the things that I talk about in the book I'm writing, is how we try to do all the things, and it really just has the opposite effect. And with the statistic, it's meaning that there's a lot of money left on the table. And I don't know about you, everyone has a different background, but I came from a family who we didn't leave stuff on the table because there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on the table to be left. And if we left things, I'm talking about food, we probably wouldn't eat for a day or two. It wasn't the family that just had a big open pantry. I remember going to my friends' houses and they would have this pantry. And I remember one friend had gushers, and I thought, oh, they're so rich. They have gushers. And that is just something that I believe has been ingrained in me, is not to waste. I don't like to waste things. I don't like it when my kids waste things. I don't like to waste anything. So when you think about your practice from that perspective, what are you leaving on the table? Now, sometimes this can feel like this guy right over here. He is about to pull his hair out. It's chaotic. It feels messy. It feels like you're putting out fires constantly. It really doesn't even matter if your practice is systemized or not. Whether you have a systemized practice or you don't, you're still going to feel this. I guarantee every single one of you have just walked into the building, the first person that comes up to you has a problem, and you automatically just feel that tension, like, oh, here we go. Like, what's it going to happen today? There's always something. Are we going to have an audit? Are we going to have a bad review on Google? Like, what is going on? Are we out of toilet paper? All the important things that come up. So you may feel that way. You may also be in this position, which is the opposite end of the spectrum. You may be like me, where at one point I thought I had clockworked my business and I thought I was doing really good. And then I decided to come back in and get in there and observe and watch and see what was really happening. And then when I did that, what I found was everything that I had created, all of the systems and all of the processes and the steps that I had created were now obsolete. My employees had come in there, they had taken a process and they had made it their own, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But what they had done is they had lost sight of the goal. And since they didn't know why it was the way it was, they had just decided to adapt it and do their own thing. And it's messy. And when you see that, if anyone's on this webinar and they've ever experienced that, it's like a kick in the gut. It's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? And why are you doing that? And who told you to do that? So you could be on either end. You could be totally stressed because you're trying to do everything, or you could really not be doing a whole lot in the operations, and then you come back in to check on it and it's not what you left. Those are the two things that I see most often. Then here's the next one. This is the next person. This is the person that it's kind of like the person that's afraid of numbers. They don't want to look because they're afraid of what they're going to find. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're scared to think about creating a system or implementing a process because it's going to be a lot of work or it's going to take a lot of time. Maybe that's you. Now, if you are one of those three, I just want to say that it is okay. We've all been there. I don't care who they are. I don't care who you are. You have been there. And for me personally, it took massive chaos before I was really able to take my practice to that next level. And when I say massive chaos, like I really mean massive chaos. Bad. The worst possible scenario you could imagine, which I will not go into right now. But the worst possible scenario you could ever imagine happened. And that was just all I needed. It was all it took for me to say, all right, no, I'm not doing this anymore. We are creating systems. We're going to use systems. I'm going to hold people accountable, and I'm going to back out the way that I should. I'm going to have this business that runs without me. And that's what systems and automations does. The systems, processes, automations, what those do is they open up the capacity for your business, which means you can have more business without putting so much pressure on the business that it causes you to have to do more work. That is the point of systems. So by the end of this webinar, here's my goal for you. You're going to have 3 things. I want you to have a clear plan on how to systemize your practice. That means if you never see me or talk to me or read another email or watch another webinar or do anything ever again, you're still going to be able to leave this webinar with a plan that you can do on your own. The second thing is I want to make sure that you have the tools necessary to systemize your practice. It's one thing for me to tell you, oh, here's how you do it. I'm sure you've been to presentations or things like that, and you're like, wow, that's a great idea, but what now? Like, what do I do? So we're going to give you all the tools you need to systemize it. And Emily's going to be a big help with that, and she'll tell you, she'll put that over in the chat here in a little bit, and you'll be able to download all of the tools. And then the third thing is just to really find that confidence within yourself to be able to create a practice that runs without you. And this is another point that I make in the book about how ironic it is that most of us create, like we want to go out and start a business, our own business, and we want to break out of what we're currently doing to go do our own thing because we don't want someone to tell us what to do. We don't want someone to tell us what rules to follow. We don't want someone to tell us when we can go pee. But what's so ironic is that we create these businesses that then demand us. They demand all of our attention, all of our time, all of our energy. And so we've really just created the one thing that we despise so much and that we tried to get out of. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And not to mention, once you create your own business, all of that liability becomes yours. At least as an employee, if you did something wrong, the owner is the one that's going to pay for it, not you. But not anymore, not whenever you are the business owner.
Casey, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Already, I'm having a pit in my stomach about this. This is amazing stuff. You know, one of the things that's, I want you guys to listen to this because one thing that I'm hearing from you is making sure that your business is running the way that you've trained the system to do. And if people are doing their own thing, I mean, it's just not going to bode well for the business in general. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely right. And it's so common. It happens so often. We are human. We naturally will take things and adapt it to fit our needs and our wants. And that can be dangerous. You know, it can be dangerous. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I just want to paint a picture for you just for a moment. And I don't know if any of you have ever thought this way, but I know I did. You want a practice that can run without you, but you really don't know where to start. And people say that all the time. I would say the number one request I get for one-on-one coaching is people that come to me and say, I want a practice that runs without me, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do first. There's so many things. I know. Like they'll show me their to-do list that's 10 pages long. And they think they have to do all of the things in order to get the practice that they want. And that is such a lie. It is such a lie. So like Ernesto said, my name is Casey, and I don't know if you would call it a superpower. I don't feel like it is, but if I had to pick one thing that I can do pretty well is create order and efficiency. And this is something that Dr. Robbie said, I feel like I systemize everything in my life, my kids, my husband, my employees, my job, my dog.
Wait, what? You systemize your kids and husband? I got to hear this one off the record.
Yeah. Think about how chaotic children are. You don't just like stick them in the car and go on a 10-hour trip to the beach. You have to have a plan. You got to time it. You got to know when their naps are. You got to time the potty breaks. You got to pack the right stuff. You got to have a system. You have to create order or you're going to have chaos. And I don't like chaos. We can get someone to systemize you, Ernesto, if we need to. I mentioned this earlier, but there was actually a time when my practice was stuck. It felt stuck. It was like I had done a lot of things, but I wasn't sure what I needed to do to get to that next level. And I realized that the reason I was stuck was that I was just trying to do everything myself. And I was creating something that was dependent on people and not on processes. And that's where I went wrong. And when I was able to recognize that and started working on building the infrastructure, which is what supports the systems, we were able to increase our capacity and just grow. And I will honestly say that the growth that we've experienced as a practice never felt like growth. It never, we added 3 new offices and it never changed our daily routine. Never felt any harder, never felt any more pressure, never felt any stress. If you are thinking that you're the most efficient thing about your business, then that's the number one key indicator that you have a systems problem. Your business does not need you. I don't care how important you are. It does not need you. And you don't want it to need you, because then you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable position that if something happened to you, you could lose it all. And that's not something that I ever want to be in. So like many of us, my aha moment came, and I realized that we had to have systems. And to this day, I was just down at the front desk earlier and I was watching them work and I was like, show me your system. Show me, I want to see it. So it's not a one and done. It's a one and forever. But once you set it up, it's a one and maintain rather than a one and create, which is the hard part. Okay, so let's dive into the hows. Okay. Before we go any further, and Ernesto, you can tell me what some of the answers are if people are brave enough to post them in the chat. But what is the goal of your practice? I'm just curious. And I would say that there's no right or wrong answers, but I think there is. So you may get it wrong, and that's okay.
I love that. The goal of the practice. All right, everyone, go ahead and flood the chat area. Serve the community, make money, Jessica says. Make money.
What does Noreen say? I saw her name in there.
I don't see it.
Not answered yet.
We have helping people, paying bills,
Okay,
lots of
cool.
making money.
Yeah. Okay, good. So
retire from seeing clients, public speaking, travel.
Nice. Okay. So the goal of your practice or the goal of any business is profitability. That is the goal forever and always. That should never change. The purpose of your practice is to make an impact and to help people and to change lives and to do all of those things. If the goal of your practice is not profitability, you're never going to be able to serve your purpose ever. And as therapists, I think this is where we miss the boat, because we have such that, we want to care for people, we want to help people, and we think that's the goal, but it's not. It's the purpose, and you can't have a purpose without a goal. So I just want to set that straight. If you disagree with me, that's okay. But the rest of this presentation is really geared around that mindset. So the point of systemizing is to move you closer towards your goal, which is profitability. Okay, so the only reason that we are systemizing is to have an increased profit margin so that we have more money to then make bigger moves and fulfill our purpose. Now, the basic process of systemizing looks just like this. And if you are going to systemize anything in your practice, my recommendation is going to be to start small. Start with a small system, a system that doesn't take on a lot of pressure. Get familiar with the process, build some confidence, and then move on to the harder ones. So it's 3 steps. So I'm going to give you 3 steps. And then within each of the 3 steps, there's 3 tasks. Okay. So step 1 is identify your bottlenecks. These are the places where things slow down. When you're systemizing, you got to know what the bottlenecks are. 2 is streamline your systems. This is just getting rid of things that aren't necessary, making them as efficient as possible. And then number 3, probably one of my favorite, is automating your processes. This is where you're leveraging technology. You're using Zaps, you're using Sheets, Google Sheets, you're using formulas. You're doing lots of things with technology that takes the human error component out of the process. Yeah.
Good question. Can you give an example of what you are going to do the bottleneck. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so a bottleneck is just a point of congestion. If you think about an actual bottle, the neck of the bottle is the smallest point, right? So that means the more capacity that you pour into the bottle, so think about it like sand. The more sand that you pour into the bottle at a faster pace, the slower it's gonna clog up, it's gonna back up here on the top. It's never gonna move any faster, no matter how much you put on it. It's only going to go as fast as the neck will allow it to go. So a bottleneck is just really where there is a place in your practice or a person in your practice that everything gets clogged. For me, I have a local bank and I love them, but they have this one lady that literally does everything. So if I need a new account or if I need to change something or whatever, it has to go through her. And guess what? If she's not there, it doesn't happen. It doesn't get done. She is a bottleneck. And almost every time I go into that bank, I make sure to tell them that. Like, hey, she is a bottleneck. That is not good for you. She is putting you in a very vulnerable position. Another thing is you can ask yourself what decisions or actions must go through you in order to be marked complete. What do you have to have the final say on? A lot of times it's paying bills, could be payroll, could be hiring. This is where your ego, it could be an ego or it could just be your control freakness comes into play. Yes, that right there. Yeah. Chances are, if you can identify some of those, then you're going to have identified a bottleneck. So Ernesto, congratulations, you are a bottleneck. Yes. And it's an important question to ask because if you know and you can honestly say to yourself, yes, I'm a bottleneck and this is what I'm a bottleneck with, then you can almost reverse engineer the systemizing process and focus on those tasks first. If it's something that you want to not do anymore. Now, if you like being a bottleneck, that's fine. It's your business. You make your own rules. There is a bonus that I'm going to give everybody. This is how you identify yourself as a bottleneck. There will be a link, and then when you go in and you sign into the link, you'll have all of these bonuses that I'm going to show you in an email that will automate and pop into your inbox afterwards. So this is a really good one. And you can do this for yourself or you can give this to people on your team as well to see how many bottlenecks you have. All right, within the identify the bottleneck, step 1, there's going to be 3 things you're going to do. So first thing you're going to do is look for congestion points. You're just going to ask yourself, ask your team, hey, where are things slowing down? Where are things getting clogged up? And when is it necessary to divert your attention? This can look like waiting. If you have to send an email to someone and you have to wait on their response, then that's a bottleneck. Because anything that's not automatic like this, that's very likely to be a bottleneck. So that's step 1. Step 2, I love to do this. When I do this for our consulting clients, it's like we blow their mind every single time. Evaluating your capacity. So this is what you are currently able to withstand. I'll give it just a very basic example. If all of the new referrals have to go through your client care coordinator in order to get set up, and that client care coordinator can only physically take one call and get it all set up, verify the insurance, get them on the schedule every 30 minutes, then multiply that out and see what their capacity is. So if they work an 8-hour day with 7 hours, 1 hour lunch, so 7 hours, that's going to be what, 14 referrals they could do in a day. Then you have to take into consideration they have to go to the bathroom, they may need their breaks, so take another hour out, that's 6, so you got it down to 12. That means the absolute most you could take would be 12. Now then you have to consider, okay, what if some of them don't answer the phone or they can't figure it? I mean, there's just a lot of different things. But when you look at capacity and you say the most my practice could ever hold is 12, then that's a really great starting point, because if you're getting more than 12 new leads per day, you're losing money. You are losing money because you are not able to withstand that capacity that's needed. So that might be a situation where you filter the calls a little better, or you have 2 client care coordinators, or you start working through that situation. This is, if it weren't for blank, we could scale faster. Someone told me this, and I keep repeating it, and I actually posted it, I think, on my Facebook today. So check it out. But it says, what if what is in the way was the way? And so if you think about that, what if what is in the way of you growing and scaling was the way? And if you could just focus all of your attention on that, what if it just opened everything up for you? It's kind of, I don't know. I've been thinking about it for a few days. I don't quite know how I feel about it yet, but it is interesting. And then the third step when you're looking for bottlenecks is diagnosing your practice. If you can diagnose a client, you can diagnose your practice. Simple as that. And if you don't know how to diagnose your practice, then you're going to get an assessment in the book I'm writing, but you could also use this one right here, Fix This Next. That is a diagnosing tool. That is how you diagnose your practice right there. So if you've never done that, I would recommend you trying it. Because if you don't have a diagnosis, how can you create a treatment plan? How can you implement interventions into a practice if you don't even know what's wrong with it? How can you treat a client? Yeah.
Casey, quick question for you. What are some of the diagnoses that are out there for practices? So I'm thinking, attachment. Alex right here says ADHD. What are some of the diagnoses pertaining to practices, solo or group?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'm actually going to put that in the book because we had not put that angle in there. But I'm going to credit you for that one, Ernesto. That one's going in there. Really, the diagnoses that you're going to find, and I would love if people can put them in the chat. Let me know, and I'll use them. But they're all going to be found within the sales, profit, and order level. So basically, the vital needs that your practice has, whether it's provider, prospect attraction, delivering on commitments, collecting on commitments, conversion, those are all diagnoses that you're going to find in your practice. And the cool thing about the book that we're writing right now is whenever you're able to give your practice that diagnosis, we give you all the interventions in order to treat it. So whereas you can't do that in the main Fix This Next book because there's so many industries, within healthcare, we can. So that's going to be a really cool change. Okay, so that was step one, identifying the bottlenecks. Once you know what your bottlenecks are, then you're going to start streamlining your systems. This part's really fun. This is where you are gaining freedom from unnecessary steps. A lot of times people will say to me, oh, we're very streamlined, and they're not. One thing that we did in our last deep dive back in September is we had our participants put their processes up on the screen, and Emily and I were able to go through on the computer with the highlighter tool and cut down the processes by at least 50% without even seeing them, just seeing the steps written down. So I guarantee you, when you start documenting all of the processes in your practice, or you have your team doing it, and then you come in and look at it, you're going to be able to knock half of those steps out immediately. That's the goal. is once you see all the steps, you want to try to get rid of at least half of them. That's the first thing. There's also a worksheet for that too. So we'll have that in your goodie email. The second step is look for friction. You may have read the book Friction, same process. You're looking for places where things are going to slow down. This is often, I don't know if anyone has ever encountered this, but I used to encounter it quite a bit until I recognized it, and then I called my team out on it. But think about how many times a day that you are working and you have a ton of stuff to do, important stuff, and you get an email from somebody, one of your employees, that says, hey, I need this. Or when you get a chance, can you look at this? Or what do you think about this? In my opinion, when they are doing that, it is like they're playing a game of tag. It's like they have a responsibility, they have a project that they're working on, but for whatever reason, they're stuck, or they're overwhelmed, or they're bored, or they just don't want to do it. And so they say, hey, tag, you're it. You look at it. Here you go. I'm going to give this to you for a while. And then they don't think about it anymore. They do not even think about it ever again, because you have it and now it's your responsibility. And I guarantee you, if you don't follow up with them about that email, they'll never ask you anything else about it. It is a way that we subconsciously get things off of our to-do list, and we relinquish all the responsibility. And employees are notorious for this. They will love to give the owners as much things that they can, because it gets it off of their plate and it puts the responsibility back on the owner. And then if I don't say, hey, Brittany, what about this? She's never going to mention it again, because it's no longer on her to-do list. She's marked it off. So that's just something to consider. Can think about how many times you're getting stuff like that. And then the last step here into the streamlining process is just less is more. So I talked about cutting it in half. Try to cut it in half again. See how few steps. Emily's in the chat. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know one process we looked at, I think it was Heather's. She had about 18 steps, and within 15 minutes or so on Zoom, we had it down to 6. And what that did is all of those remaining 12 steps that we cut out just increased her profit margin, because that was less time she was having to pay someone to produce the same amount of work. So time in this situation, in the streamlining process, really equals money. And that's why we're doing this, remember? The point of systemizing is to help you reach your goal of profitability. Okay. So you've got your bottlenecks and your streamlining. And here is another worksheet that will help you with that streamlining process. Last step, this is the automation piece. It is super important not to automate until you have streamlined. So whatever you do, don't automate it unless you've streamlined it, because you're just wasting your time. So you want to get it as clean and as lean as you possibly can before you start leveraging your technology for automations. And that's exactly what the first step is. If this is what I do, I don't know about Ernesto, you probably do this too. I always tell myself, no matter what it is, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a better way. Like, I love everyone's background. He inspired me. I was like, man, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. Forget it. He's putting shiplap up. I'm doing it. But I also know that I'm not that great with power tools. So I said, there has to be a better way. This is wallpaper, and I can do wallpaper. I can stick it up. So whenever you're able to ask yourself that and really just commit to it and be able to use and leverage technology in a way to speed up the streamlining process, that's a win. And if technology is not your thing, it's not my thing. I love automations when someone does it for me, but I'm not good at creating them on my own. But I am good at recognizing who is good at it. And so I'll say, hey, Emily, we need to make this work faster, or we need to put an automation here, or hey, Jackie, we need a formula over here in this dashboard. And then they can do it. I just have to recognize that there has to be a better way. So that's step one. Step two is limit your involvement. You have to, if you have a team, you have to empower the team to get behind the problem and make changes on their own. If you go in there and do it for them, they're going to expect you to always do it for them. I'm known for this down there, that they hate it whenever I know how to fix it, but I purposely will not. I will make them figure it out. I'll help them, give them clues, but I will not do it for them.
Casey, I absolutely love this step two piece, just because, one of the things that I'm really big about, and Robert can attest to this, is empowerment of the team. I want to make sure that everyone feel like they can do it, right? I mean, of course, with supervision, with clinical supervision, that's a different story where you're providing that type of training for pre-licensed clinicians, right? But I love the idea that clinicians on their own, on my team, can think about how to network and not rely so much on me. And Robert, maybe you can speak to this, and that's a very powerful approach, thus allowing me to retire, thus allowing me to travel. Robert?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned supervision, and I think there is a similarity here with supervision, because if you have a supervisee ask you, what should I say to this client? That's not nearly as helpful as helping them to figure out what to say to a client, and maybe not even that particular situation, but expanding the idea to how might we help clients like this. So if it's an answer to a particular problem in the systemizing of the practice, maybe there's a larger issue in play here, and we don't need to just fix today's issue, but what's the bigger issue within the practice that maybe the team can help to solve?
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that in the very beginning of my hiring process with clinicians, Casey, is a sheet where I lay out how to talk to people over the phone to convert them into clients, and then have practice with them, and then just step back and allow them to do that for them. I mean, that is one thing that I'm proud about, just that.
Yeah.
Everything else I need to fix.
That's a big deal. I guess I'm saying this from a recovering control freak, but it's hard. It's hard because you tell yourself that you can't compromise the quality. But when you tell yourself that, you are just pinning yourself down into something that you are never going to get out of. And I love those examples, especially how to relate that back to clinical. And you do a lot of, I used to be a teacher. I taught second grade. So this kind of comes naturally to me, because not that I feel like I'm talking to second graders, but I want to make sure that it is so simple that a second grader could understand it. So, you may hear me saying, okay, well, so tell me what you did, and then what is the goal here? What are we trying to achieve? And then what's getting in the way? Just really talking this out. And then they can start to make these connections on their own, so that in the future, when they have a problem or they realize there is a breakdown in systems, they don't come and ask you. They fix it themselves, and then they're really proud of themselves for being able to do that. This is for a whole nother webinar, but one of the things that I say a lot is, in order to have a practice that runs without you, you have to have employees that can work without you. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to get all of our staff to work together as a team and be able to work without me. And I think if we look at it like that, it changes our actions quite a bit. And then this is the last step, step 3 in the automation. And this is just leveling up. This is where you implement an automation and then you step back and you watch it and you see, okay, did this work? Did this not work? Looking at the KPIs, making decisions from there. Now, let's recap, because it sounds like a lot of information, but it's actually really simple if you take your time and you do it at your own pace. You identify your bottlenecks, you streamline your systems, then you automate your processes. Those 3 steps. This right here will allow you to be 100% in control of your business's capacity. So if you want $1 million practice, you got to set up a system that can withhold the demand of $1 million practice. If you want a $5 million practice, guess what? You're going to have more streamlined systems, or you're going to have to hire more staff to support the demand. So if you can think about it like that, and if you are a control freak, this is how you control. You control through capacity. I do want to mention, because you're going to see this in the email, but whenever you opt into the freebies, you will be getting something for this Systemizer school, and I just want to mention it in case anyone sees it and doesn't know what it is. This is the 2.0 version of the 30-day deep dive that we did back in September. We had 30 people go through the program, and we had amazing results. And if you don't believe me, ask them. I'll give you their names. It was unbelievable, the transformation that their businesses saw from this experience. So whenever you get that in your email, you can click on the link, read. There's a whole landing page about it. I will say that Systemizer School is not for everyone. This is something that you really have to be mentally prepared to do. It lasts for 2 months. It's very intense. It's designed to make big, big changes in your practice, and it's just not for everyone. So I like to show you this again. Identify the bottlenecks, streamline the systems, automate the processes. It's really just that simple. And you can do this for anything, any system, anything in your business, no matter what it is. And as I've been thinking about systems more and more and more, and as I've been working on this book, what I have systems in my life or in my practice, I have confidence in just being me. And Ernesto, I know you can relate to this, and you're dancing, and which I need to see you do when we there you go. Oh yeah. You know, you don't care what other people think about you anymore, because you know that you are you, and you built this business in the way that you wanted to build it. You didn't follow by anyone else's rules. You can wear leggings, you can not put makeup on, you can put a top knot in your hair. It doesn't matter. You don't care, because you know that your business is your business, and it is designed the way you want it to, and it's going to run, and it's going to make you money even when you're not in it. And I think the question really that I would leave you with is, who are you as a person? Who are you? And what do you want your business to do? What direction do you want it to go? Where do you want to take it? Because whatever your answer is to that question is possible. You just have to reverse engineer it. I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all today. It's amazing. I love talking about systems. I get really passionate about it. I did want to leave you with some freebies. So here's how you get it. Emily's going to post a link. Here's a QR code if you'd rather use that with your phone. This is our 30 days to systemized calendar. I told you that I wouldn't let you leave without a clear plan. When you download this, it's going to look like this, the calendar, but then there's about 20 or 12, I don't know, pages that tell you what to do on every single day. So day 1 through 30, there are steps every single day on what to do to get yourself systemizing. And what will happen is the more you do it in that order, the more natural it's going to become. And then you're going to start systemizing things, and you're not even going to realize you're doing it. So hopefully that's helpful.
Oh my gosh, I'm so blown away by this presentation. And this is something that I've been harping on and really, watching myself do as far as, my businesses. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about and really committed to is trying to systemize the group practice in general. And the main thing is empowering my clinicians on try to think differently and more creatively. So now we are going to be opening up questions. Robert and I are going to be monitoring the chat box. But Robert, what's your thoughts? What's some things that comes up for you?
Something that I wrote down that there wasn't a great time to jump in and ask you about, Casey, was this idea of, let's see, what was it? Something about building your, let's see, I'll find it here. Build your infrastructure that depends on processes, not people. And yet at the same time, the people are really important as they're interacting with your clientele. Obviously, we're mainly thinking about therapy clientele here, but this could be any business, right? And I imagine that if you're not already, that you'll eventually work with non-therapy oriented businesses too, right? These are great things for all kinds of businesses. So one thing that's kind of been going through my mind as you've been talking is this idea of processes, not people, and yet also needing to train people to do those processes. So I wonder if you could talk a little more about how you go about or how you think about that idea of training your people to know your processes inside and out so that you don't have to be there for the process to run smoothly.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know that some people in the chat have said, I don't have a team. And that's even more reason to systemize. So the reason that I say you want to focus on the process rather than the person is because we are human and we get sick, we move, we make bad decisions sometimes, and the process is what gives your business that consistency. And all the therapists in here know the best way to predict future behavior is to look at past behavior. And so if you have a process that always runs the same way every single time and you get a certain result, you can then start to predict what's going to happen in a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. So I think the biggest thing is that the processes are going to give you that stability. And when you have the processes, then you can create accountability based off of those. It's kind of like what you're measuring someone up against. So that's one way to answer that question.
I love that. Here's another question from Alex. Can you give an example of friction, possibly? What a friction looks like?
Yeah. Okay, so let's say you have a front office and you have a receptionist and you have a client care coordinator. Friction might be where there's not clear boundaries on what the receptionist does versus what the client care coordinator does, and they're getting things mixed up and balls are getting dropped because they're having to communicate with one another quite a bit. And we know anytime there is communication, there is miscommunication, and that's going to cause friction. Anything like just that's just causing pain without giving you a result.
Yeah. So someone is tossing the responsibility to another person and going, "Hey, you do this. No, that's your rule. That's not my rule. No, let's give it to the owner. I see it. Wow, that is stressful even to think about." Here's another question. Erica Martinez from Florida. What happens if you don't have a process to observe initially because it's something completely new to the practice? So let's say, they started a group practice and it's so new. What do they have to be mindful of as far as process?
Yeah, that's when, Erica, that's when you're going to reverse engineer it. So you want to conjure up in your head what ideally you want this to look like. And then you're just going to plan for it that way. Now, you're going to have to change it. And that's the thing. That's the thing about systemizing is it never stops. So you're going to do something one way and it's going to work for maybe a couple weeks. And then you're going to get an influx of new clients and then it's not going to work anymore. But if you think about what the goal of your practice is, so let's say you're trying to get to a goal of 25 new clients a week. If you can build your systems and your capacity around that 25 client a week, then you won't always have to be constantly changing it. We just happen to build ours really big. So we had a point in time where we were getting like 350 referrals a month. So we had to create our systems around that capacity. We had to make sure that we could, we had enough therapists to support 300 new referrals a month. We had processes in place to make sure we were not losing out on billable sessions, because that's a lot of clients to keep tabs on, and that we were able to make sure that we were maintaining our core message or our QBR of being the place that clients really felt cared for. We didn't want them to feel like they were going through a cattle mill. We wanted to make sure that we took the time and attention to talk to people on the phone as long as they needed to get that appointment scheduled. So with that being said, with those are the goals, then we work backwards to create the system to ensure that that's how it's done.
So it's almost as if you are doing things and looking at, okay, this is working. Let's turn that into a system. Let's work backwards. So for instance, if your system is, hey, one of your therapists is answering their own phone calls, booking it, and then emailing you, say, hey, I've got an appointment going on here. If that is working to a T, then you create that system backward and go, you know what, in the hiring process, you are going to answer your own calls, and here's a system that we have.
Yeah, you duplicate it.
This is awesome.
And honestly, when it was just me, when I was the one-man show, that's exactly what I did. I found things that worked really well, and then I duplicated it, and then I scaled it. So I had to do it first. I duplicated it into something that someone else could do, and then I just blew it up to see how big I could get it. And it's kind of fun once you get in the rhythm of it. It's kind of fun. I do that for everything now.
That's awesome. Robert, you had
Oh no, I was just going to say too, and I mean, a lot of this gets down to organizational communication. And if you don't have that, you might have somebody lone wolfing it off in a corner, and they're just killing it and making your business tons of money that other people aren't making because they don't know what's working for everybody else.
Yeah, that's why the team, it's just so important. We implemented a lot of changes as a result of that right there. We had a couple people that were just killing it, but they weren't telling anybody else. And so we decided, all right, we're going to meet every morning, 9 a.m., 30 minutes. We have a structure for the meeting, and we want to know what you're doing well, because we want to figure it out. We want to do more of it.
Robert, what comes up for me, for those of you, I'm going to start calling you Robbie, because he asked me to call him Robbie from here on out. One of the things that is coming up for me is we have a team right now that is just strong in cohesion. We've got a really good energy, and I'm thinking each one of them have something to offer as far as the system or development of a system. Robert, do you think?
Yeah, well, and I know you just recently asked me to do a training for our team, and I think, just that idea of having your team train your team so that it doesn't always fall on the business owner to do all of the training. I mean, utilize the strengths of your team and get them in that position where they take ownership and they feel empowered by not just communicating, but helping them to think, what do I have that I can contribute beyond just seeing clients?
Absolutely. And Casey, there's a question for you here. And I think I know one of them. His name is Mike McAllowitz. But Casey, who is your mentor or an influential book to reference to?
Man, this is hard. Mike's just an amazing guy. If I have a question, I had a question the other night at like 9 o'clock, and I'm messaging him like, hey, I need an answer. Can you help me? And I mean, he's like the first one to say, okay, what do you need? Definitely Mike. Mike's co-writer, AJ Harper, is amazing. I mean, she's been a big help for me. And I would say too, if you don't know him, you need to look up Jeffrey Shaw. He's an author in Miami, Florida. And he published a book called Lingo, and he's getting ready to publish a new book called The Self-Employed Life. And Jeffrey just gets it. I mean, he's just been one that I talk to a couple times a month, and he's like, tell me what you're doing. And he just holds me accountable, and he's so encouraging. And I think if you can just find somebody that you click with, and that can just find someone that's doing what you want to do, no matter what it is, and just be persistent and just go after them, build relationships with them. If you have to, sign up for masterminds with these people just to kind of get into their circle. It is worth it. Your relationships are the key to your growth, 100%.
Yeah. I've got those comments, in my masterclass groups, and many of the therapists who have joined in, I learned from them as much as they learned from me, but it's just a beautiful conversation all the way around. Casey, my question to you is, will you come back again and do this?
Yes, I will. Let's talk about the book next time. I'll give people some tips on how to diagnose.
Oh my gosh, do you guys know what you guys have right now? When you join my webinars, you will have amazing people like Casey on here. All right. So my goodness, Casey, any lasting words of encouragement for our people here who really do good, amazing work for the community? And let's help them to be free. Let's help them to systemize. What's your...
Don't wait. I don't know. I don't have this. I need to know this better. Just don't wait until you feel ready, because you're never going to feel ready. It's always going to feel daunting. You've got to just do it, and it will come. Confidence will come. All of your talents that you probably never knew you even had will come out. You've just got to make that first step. And I swear, I can't imagine a business that needed me. I just can't. I can't. It would like crush my soul. And there's just so much life to live, and you don't want your business to hold you back.
That's absolutely beautiful. All right, everybody. I want you guys to look at your inbox. By the end of this week, you will have a copy of this video. You will have a copy of all of the freebies that's given to you. I'm telling you, that's in itself, that's hundreds and thousands of dollars of information that was just given to you right now. So what I want you guys to do is, after we sign off today, I want you to go to her website, sign on her membership site, all of the things that she basically just buy every shit that she sells to you. Okay. All right. So just go ahead and do that. I will be promoting Casey throughout the year next year. And once her book comes out, you better believe she's going to do the second webinar with me, right? Casey, you guys heard this first.
Yes. Yes. You will be first.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. Like I said, watch your inbox for some really good stuff going on. And then also, I will send over the link to many of the webinars that I'll be doing, all of the conferences that I'll be doing, the summits for next year. And filmit.com will be starting to travel starting next year for your promotional videos, because I know that you guys have been waiting. I've got a backlog of promotional videos to do, and Casey, we've got a promotional video to do as well too, sometime next year. So keep an eye out for that email. Again, mahalo and aloha everyone for attending. You guys are just amazing people. Casey, you are freaking awesome.
Thank you. You are freaking awesome too, Ernesto.
Aloha, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.